What's happening, my friend?
Not much. How are you, Matt? Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you. How was the weekend?
Amazing. I love celebrating America. It was a great
Yeah, man.
weekend.
Did you guys do anything?
We got three kids, four and under, so we just hung out in the backyard with the water jump house thing
Yeah.
my grandparents gave us and played with sparklers. It was beautiful.
Cool, man. Yeah, the way it's supposed to be. Good for you.
Exactly.
That's awesome, man. Cool. Glad to hear it. Thanks for coming in and hanging out, man. We got some of our men and women, and some of them campus owners. Some are men in the men's program, ladies in the women's program. We've got some of our home education families, and then we're gonna run this as a podcast too, man. This is just an important topic. It's an important conversation, and we got a lot of like-minded parents here, man. So thanks for coming to hang out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I Nothing gets me more excited and gets me out of bed in the morning than protecting the innocence of kids so
Yeah.
that, we can secure the next generation. So this is what I'm here for.
And that's it. That's exactly it. So I want to selfishly, I kind of want to dive in a little bit to you, too, just on the front end on how you got into this work in general. Obviously, what you're doing with Proven Ministries, with Sex Talk, with I mean that the entire thing, man. So I want to just give a little context first of all to you and how you got into this in the first place. We'll talk about some of the things that you're doing, talk some of the things that you're seeing, and then yeah, we got moms and dads that'll want to come in and just some Q&A, man, and we expect you to know all the answers, Nick. Have
I
every
got it.
answer. If this doesn't just change everything for us, we're going to be so mad. So
This podcast will solve all of your problems.
it's going to solve all parenting issues for all time. So that's no big deal. That's just the explanation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, talk about how you got into this work in general, man, please.
Yeah, so for the last decade, I've been the executive director of Proven Ministries. We are a sexual integrity, faith-based nonprofit that operates nationally. When I got the job, it was only Proven Men. Context, we hit the ground running, scaled it nationally. We built Proven Women, we built Proven Wives, and then people kept asking me to make curriculum for younger and younger children.
Mhm.
The average age of exposure is now 8 years old, and I had people come up to me and ask me, hey, I need something for my 14-year-old. Hey, I need something for my 13-year-old. And I had a couple come and ask me to make curriculum for their 10-year-old who was in the throes of addiction and struggling. And I said, I'm done. I'm not making any more curriculum for younger and younger children. We have to get mom and dad in the fight. And that was the genesis of building the sextalk.com, a parent's preventative curriculum to get mom and dad on the front lines. Um, that's the wicked high 30,000 foot view. You don't end up as the executive director of a purity ministry without my story of crazy sexual debauchery, redeemed and saved by Jesus, and now using my story to change the lives of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and restore families, restore broken marriages, and things of that nature. And so, yeah, it's a classic God story of he takes someone who should be ultimately canceled and then uses my story to redeem and speak life into those in the hardest places. And so that's my 30,000 foot story.
So cool, man. The do you know Sophia Sam?
Yeah, yeah, I know he's been on our podcast numerous times. We partner in ministry all the time.
Okay, Sophia is a great guy, man. And again, same kind of thing, right? Like crazy story comes around and now he's helping so many people. He's come in with our men. He and I were supposed to be at an event together a couple of months ago. It didn't end up working out, but he's somebody that I stay connected with quite often, man, and just a good human being, man. And again, turn that around and then wants to build something to help serve other people. You mentioned that exposure piece, man, and the younger and younger, like, is, and again, I don't know what parts you dive into as far as the research and the building and what part the team is. If you don't have an answer on something, obviously, like nobody, I was only half joking when we expect you to know and solve everything, but this exposure, man, and this trend, has this been continuously trending younger and younger? And is this primarily happening like at schools, on school campuses? Is it happening during sleepovers? Like, what is the data? What have you seen as far as is it trending and why?
For the last decade, the average age of exposure has been getting younger and younger. I mean, for the parents listening, it really kind of is preaching to the choir with the invention of the internet, with the invention of the smartphone. You could be the most perfect parent in the world, and unless you lock your children in your basement and you never let them out, they are going to be encountering the world at different ages. They're generally exposed either on the school bus or from a friend or at a sleepover. And I mean, that was my story. I was on a camping trip with a Christian Boy Scout ministry, and,
Mm.
there was hardcore magazines, and long story short, my story unfolds. But what the sex talk is really wanting to come alongside of parents with is it's not if, but when. And
Yeah.
so this narrative must shift because our culture has shifted. Everything is sexually saturated. YouTube Kids is not safe. To be frank, nothing is safe, but that doesn't mean we need to be afraid. It just means we need to be proactive parents and then really get to introducing these ideas to our children first in age appropriate ways so that they know mom and dad have all the answers. Because here's what we don't want: if they don't think that mom and dad have all the answers, they're going to go ask Google, they're going to go ask their friends, they're going to go ask the internet, and they're going to think that's where the truth is. And we want to break that cycle.
That's so important. That parent piece, that parent trust piece. And it's interesting, man, as we talk to more and more of the men and the women. I haven't had this kind of conversation with our ladies as much. Coach Witt will have, and I've definitely had it with our men. And it's so interesting how we look back at our own exposure from our parents and how they did or did not tackle this altogether. And I know, for I can speak for a lot of our men and speak for myself. It wasn't anything that was really tackled by my parents, right? It was just something of just like kind of keep it quiet and like let's see what happens. And the only conversation that ever happened on my side, I remember being 19. I had crashed my car. My dad had to drop me off somewhere, and he dropped me off back where I lived in college because I'd been out of the house for a couple of years by then. Drops me off, and as I'm getting out of the car, he rolls the window down and he just goes, "Hey, by the way, you better not be getting anybody pregnant." And I'm like, "Sounds good, Dad." And then he drove away. There's our talk at 19, where I'm already too late, and that's weird, right? Like, that parent piece is so big. Do you still see this being something that culturally we're also neglecting like previous generations did? Is that still?
Sadly,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
The number one, it's not malicious, but the
sure.
number one lie that parents want to tell themselves is, I still have time, I still have time, I still have time.
Hmm.
And the amount of parents I talked to that thought they still had time started
Hmm.
at the age of 13 and found out that they were 3 years late. I mean, is like
Hmm.
literally countless. And so, yes, that's kind of this generational curse we want to break, or this generational trend we want to break. Is, I remember my talk, it was a random awkward conversation driving in the car for 30 minutes, and all I remember is looking out the window. And I honestly, that's literally all I remember. And
Yeah.
so what we are really encouraging parents to do is to break that cycle. I mean, I've been to thousands of speaking events and had parents raise their hands. And to your story, to my story, so
Mhm.
few parents had a talk. If you're lucky, you got one. Most
Yeah.
people didn't even get one. And it's like less than 5% had more than one or ongoing talks with their parents. And we have to break that because why would we assume it's almost negligent and crazy to think about? Why would we assume our kids are going to have any of this figured out?
Sure.
And we're just like your dad did, again, nothing necessarily malicious of like,
Sure.
hey, don't get her pregnant, or be good, or stay pure, or you'll figure it out. But nowhere, literally nowhere in our culture are we giving kids the answers as they grow and mature and become adults. We're just expecting them to have it all figured out, which is ridiculous.
Just so crazy, man. If you think back to all like, I talk to parents about what are the skills you want for your kids. They can do they'll rattle some off.
Yep.
And usually the bigger conversation on our side is I'm like, what do you want for your kids? What do you want them to be able to do? Who do you want them to be? And they'll say, I want them to be this well-adjusted person. They can communicate well. They're happy with their right. It's some semblance of the same sort of thing. And I usually use it as like, cool, I didn't hear you mention you want to have them master trigonometry, right? Like I take it from an education standpoint.
Yeah.
can be great if you need it. Not everybody does, but listen to what you actually want. Let's gear education towards this. But the work you're doing is pointing out we're also not preparing them for this understanding of something that is so important and it's so infused and so ingrained. We're not giving them the skills or the respect that they can handle the skills in the conversation, right? Going forward. Like that's just it's bananas how much we avoid it. And I get it.
Or even teaching them to come to us and ask us questions. Like,
That
even if it's uncomfortable, come and ask me a question.
it's
And
that.
to your point, it is only uncomfortable if you allow that stigma to play out. What
Right.
we're encouraging for parents to do is have age-appropriate conversations starting at the age of 6 so that it's normal, it's chill, it's relaxed. It's not this heightened, awkward, rip the band-aid off and then
Mm.
create this environment thing, which I think is what some parents still think. And so like my kids already at the age of 4 know the word penis, vagina, and
Right.
we're already like understanding who's allowed to touch you here, who's not, and how girls are different than boys, and how mommy needs privacy when she's changing. And like this sounds mundane, but it's not, because what I'm doing is I'm weaving this into the web of their story, of their narrative. And guess what? Surprise, surprise, none of us would be here today if it wasn't for sex. So this
Shocking.
is literally a universal component of existence, yet
Yeah.
we don't want to talk to our kids about it or help them figure it out.
So true. Man, for the parents that you're helping, do you find the biggest pushback or perceived hurdle for them? Is it the knowledge of what to say when, or is it the emotion and kind of their own mental energy behind it, right? So it's like what you just said, like keeping this a chill conversation, right? I like our oldest daughter. I remember, and I've shared this with with some of our folks before. Our oldest daughter, when she started her cycle, it was one of the proudest moments for me because she was just like, "Hey, you guys, by the way, this just happened," and we were like, "Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for letting us know. What do you need?" And my wife took control
Mhm.
of that, and there you go. But it was so just like, "Hey guys, I know this is a part of it. I trust you guys. You guys trust me." And it was here you go, and it was so just like matter of fact, we also were like, cool, congrats, celebration. Like we can honor that a little bit and let my wife take control of it. And I felt like it was for me, it was one of those things where we were able to look at each other and we went, maybe, okay, high five. Maybe we did something like cool, like good. Like there's a strong enough relationship here, So for those parents, is it the technical side or is it more the emotional side that you have to work with them on?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's just a cultural hiccup we have
Yeah,
of like they don't know where to say, when to start. There's just so many questions, which I mean, to be frank, is why we built the sex talk, because it's like, hey, let me take everything I can find in 25 years of knowledge,
yeah,
synthesize it into 14 videos, and if you can just get these basics, it can guide you. And so, yeah, there's definitely this analysis by paralysis component.
yeah,
And I think that's really what we're trying to do is we're trying to normalize it, we're trying to destigmatize it. We're trying to say there's no prescriptive correct answer. It's
yeah,
just getting points on the board. And like to your point with your story with your wife, it's like that's a perfect high five moment and keep on keeping on. Like that's
sure.
what you want. You want thousands of those moments as your children
Exactly.
grow up.
That's exactly what you want. The that spouse part, man. And I want to get into, as far as like what you've developed for the curriculum. I want to talk through that so everybody has an understanding. And then, men and women on the call, obviously, as you guys start thinking of things, as you start having questions, you can start putting your hands up at any time, just so I know that you've got some coming. And then Coach Whit and I will start bringing you guys in too. But you've got like you were saying there, the spousal part. Have you seen any differences? I guess this is a two-part question. Any differences when working with single parent households? And do you ever run into, as you guys are helping families, do you ever run into mom and dad in the two-parent household have a different perspective or a different uh background. Maybe one's even battling some sort of like sexual brokenness, right? And so the single parent, do you see anything there? And then when mom and dad don't agree.
Yeah, so the single parent one, sadly, when you become a parent, there's no easy pass given to you. I wish parenting was all easy all the time. If you are a single parent, you are a superhero. It is a little bit harder to step into that space. Not impossible, not difficult, no reason to still not lean in. But yes, I talk to a lot of single moms that have kids. One of my best friends, I was just mentoring her the other day, and she's got a 13-year-old son, and I was
Wow.
kind of walking her through some of this. And because we don't take a prescriptive approach, and we really just are encouraging that leaning in for her, I was like, you can't. She was believing the lie that she needed a man in her life to step into this space for her son. And
Mm.
I just had to break that. I said, like, sorry, that's false. And I'm sad the church has told you that, or maybe they haven't and you just thought you heard it. But, like, no, like, you are his person. Be
Mhm.
there for him and walk with him through this part of his journey as he is in puberty and is experiencing new things into his body. And yes, if you have male friends, incorporate them if he can get a male mentor in his life. But yeah, so for single parents, it's a little bit more difficult, but not impossible. And it's, lean in, you got this. And then for your other part of your question with our moms and dads or our couples kind of coming at this from a different vantage point, I would say I haven't seen that in the stories or the data. By and large, what we see is a couple says, okay, we're going to make this a priority, and then they engage it together. There's not one pushing back and one leaning forwards. You're already doing everything together in marriage. You're still married, so I'm imagining you're already making decisions together. You're just coming together as a team and strategizing, how do we want to do this? Like to your point with your daughter, when she had her cycle,
Yeah.
I imagine there had to have been some levels of conversation around, like, all right, honey, you're going to take this when this happens, but I'm going to applaud it and we're going to move forward through it. It's not weird. It's all good. And so the only thing I'll say to that question is one of the other negative lies that I hear regularly is the mom's going to take care of it for the girls and the dad's going to take care of it for the boys. And
Mm.
so that is not healthy because my boys, as they grow up, need to know and hear and have the lens of a woman from my
Mhm.
mother. And my daughters need the same thing from me. So you actually do your children a disservice by mom kind of bowing out for the son's, sex talks. And again, we're not making this some big hyped event. It's just these
Sure.
normal conversations. So mom's voice when they hit puberty, and mom's voice when they start dating, and mom's voice when they get engaged and they're about to get married is just as valuable as dad's voice, and vice versa in the genders.
That's really good, man. Yeah, and like you said, it's not, I think that what you subtly hit there too, that I think is so important is it's not some big hyped up event. If we're looking at it like this is a prize fight that we've got to train for, and then you get one shot and you better freaking get the knockout, like we're gonna be doing a disservice to everything when it just becomes, it's a relevant part of humanity. It's a relevant part of growing. So if it's just a relevant part of conversations without the emotional charge that we tend to put there, man, then then that is gonna matter. Before we get into the kind of the video series and how it's put together, and we start bringing questions in too, my mind works in these like, ooh, what about this situation and this situation? And I thought of another as you were talking too, faith-based families, non-faith-based families. And I asked that coming from, I remember running before I started opening my own schools, the last school that I ran was a private Christian school. And working with a lot of those families, there was still the hush hush kind of thing in the church, right? At least there, it was like the hush hush. You just don't even talk about it. You just say, look, all sex bad, bad, bad. Wait till you're married, bad. And then we'd hear, we find out about students who left and years later, and they rebelled against that, and the relationship wasn't solid in the family, and so you had that. And then you had people on the other side who are like, see, that's why it doesn't work, and that's why you just give them the green light. And it's like, okay, well, neither one of those situations seem to be great. But with what you guys have done, do you see differences in the faith community versus non-faith community as far as approach and efficacy, or is it about same?
Uh, Probably same to your specific question of do we see more isolation in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
faith-based communities or not?
yeah.
I would say thankfully that is dying. The purity culture movement, I think everybody has kind of understood that that's not the answer. We have a lot of stories and years of kids now
Yeah,
that came out of the 90s and the 2000s and were like, yeah, that's not the right answer.
yeah.
The don't have sex until you're married. Be pure. We're not going to talk about it, and then just expect them for now. All of a sudden, it's good, and you'll figure it out. Like,
Check that one off. They got it. Yeah, right. Yeah.
thankfully, that is not really continuing. That does not mean that's universal, but I would say faith communities seem to be less afraid. And that narrative is not normal and not continuing. I haven't seen in my stories. And I would say our approach is also more of like a Judeo-Christian approach.
Yeah.
I am a Christian, our ministry is faith-based, but when we built the Sex Talk, we really did take a Judeo-Christian approach. So there may be a couple sessions where we do bring up some theology, and there's a couple Bible verses here and there, not because I couldn't do it. I know how to do it and build it that way, but we really wanted to take this, okay, we're just going to say Judeo-Christian truths, how God made man or woman, or how whoever made man and woman and how their bodies work. I'm not shying away from this topic. I'm just saying
Sure.
that we did take the Judeo-Christian approach. So if somebody wants to counter that, like, this course is not for you, I'm so sorry, it's just not. But, man is man, woman is woman, and they procreate and make babies, and that's what we're talking about when we're having the sex talk.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. I appreciate that. So as far as laying out the curriculum,
Mhm.
for lack of a better word, and kind of the coaching through everybody, can you give everybody kind of that 30,000 foot view, just high level of what that entails and what that looks like? Because I've gotten to go through that, and our affiliates have gotten to see it and go through it.
Mhm.
Can you give everybody kind of that high level of what that looks like?
Yeah, so very high level. Of course, I can double click on anything. It's 14 sessions. Each of those sessions takes a topical approach, and it's not a prescriptive approach. So one of them is biology, one of them is design, one of them, we actually did a specific one on masturbation. We do a specific one on digital technology. We do a specific one on abuse and harms. We do a specific one on pornography. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to say, again, semi-complicated topic. How can I give a parent everything they need for a decade plus with their kids? And so that was the approach, is 14 sessions. Each video is approximately 30 minutes long. And this is not something you put your kids in front of and press play. This is
Right.
for mom and dad or single parents to come together and to make a game plan, and then to plan and prepare how they're going to play it out in their home. So I'll just give you one example from one of the lessons with expert Matt Fradd. Some people may know that name, some people may not. What his session, one of my favorite nuggets in the entire course, is he is giving his children, his young children, a definition of pornography. And what he's addressing is sometimes parents are afraid that they're going to harm their children by talking about things too soon. And he's essentially breaking that lie by saying, here, let me show you how my son did it and how I did it with my kids, and how you're not harming your children, when he gave them the definition of pornography. And his son's in the back seat and they're driving, and he said, Dad, what's pornography? And he's like, all right, the moment has arrived. What do I do? And he's freaking out. And then he says, well, son, pornography is images or videos where parts of their bodies are showing that a bathing suit would normally cover. And if that ever happens, I want you to tell me that you saw it, and I'm going to be so proud of you that you did. And he just gave his children the definition of pornography without inciting lust or harming them in any way, and then simultaneously saying, oh, and by the way, if you ever see it, I want you to come tell me, and I'm going to be so proud that you did.
Yeah.
That's one example.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. You gotta have some great, I would imagine, success stories and people coming in and just being excited about that too. Is there any, I don't know, is there anything that you guys talk about, anything that comes to mind, anything that you guys talk about as far as like, ooh, this was rad, like this success story, or we heard this family did this, like anything top of mind on that?
Yeah, top of my favorite one is one of my best friends is he's high up in the Church of 1122 in Jacksonville, Florida, and it's I like this story so much because it speaks to the stigma of the problem. And he's like the perfect marriage, the perfect family, the perfect pastor dude, and he's still like doesn't know what to do, doesn't know what to say, and he's hunting in a deer stand, listening to the sex talk in his ears while he's hunting, and he's taking notes. And then he goes on this trip and he brings his boys, and he says, Nick, I like this conversation was amazing. We talked for hours. The boys were engaged. I knew what to say. They were asking these. And it was this amazing superhero story where he was like, again, he's patting me on the back because we're buds. We're like really good friends.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is everything. And so it's cool to hear that story
Yeah.
because no one's perfect. No one's special. He's just a regular man.
Yeah.
But he was given the tools he needed and he was empowered. That's all we're going for. Giving mom and dad the tools to feel confident and empowered.
That's it, man. That's it. That's the whole thing. Ashley, I saw your hand up. I was gonna bring you in right now, girl. I'm bringing you in here. I'm spotlighting you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So I was raised in a household where my dad would say blank in the city, like it was not Sex in the City.
Ooh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. So I definitely want to be more open. But I feel like I guess the goal is that they would come to you with questions, like you said, instead of Google. But if they come to you with something that you just truly think they're too young to talk about, do you say you're too young? Do you think you just have to explain it because they asked it, or what do you think?
Excellent question. And this is the beauty of parenting. Everything's in the nuance. So you know your child and the story and the situation better than anyone else. So like an example would be, I'm trying to find like if my son is asking about where babies come from or whatever, right? Like at the age of 4, I'm not giving him the entire answer. I'm giving him a piece of the answer. So you determine the maturity of your child. You determine what could have happened that sparked whatever that question was. Like there's so much nuance that absolutely matters that you might need to discover, God forbid, has there been abuse? You might need to explore. So like the short answer is you definitely don't want to harm them, but I believe in you and don't think that that's even an option. Like that's not going to happen. More than anything, what it is you just need to read the room and figure out what you think that they're ready for. And then also give them an answer and then maybe say, and I'm going to even tell you more about that as you get a little bit older. So like it's so dependent and nuanced based on whatever that question could be. But to your point, here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to wait and hope your kids are going to come ask the questions, because what you're doing is you're putting the ball in their court and you're just hoping it happens. You want to be exploring and asking questions. One of my buddies in the course, he does the session for dads having the sex talk with their sons. There's another one for when, moms have the sex talk with girls. And obviously I can break that down more. But one of his favorite icebreakers is he'll go on a walk with his boys when they're like 9 or 10. And he'll just be talking about whatever. And he'll say, hey, have you ever heard the word sexy? Do you know what that means? And like he's just walking, talking about whatever, but he's He's planting seeds and he's probing to see what they've heard, what they know. And so he's not on his heels waiting and hoping. He's leaning in, but like wisely searching out in each of his children at whatever age they are. Because like you have to take that proactive approach. You don't know what your child has seen. So like an example, again, my kids are younger. Some people have older kids here and they can speak to this, but I am regularly asking, and we've made a habit of this because in our family rhythms, our children still go to daycare. We're going to do the homeschool thing next year, and all that's going to change. But I regularly ask my children, hey, did anything happen at daycare today that made you feel uncomfortable? And that's not like a weird question. They've had that question like hundreds of times now where they're now used to answering it. And so, like, you have to really create that environment at whatever age your child is where you're exploring that with them. Did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, very much so. And I didn't even thinking about why they asked the question, like where did it come from? Did something happen? So yeah, that's great info. I mean, my daughter can't even talk yet, so we have some time, but
Yes.
great info.
But I would say, Ashley, what happens is like I'm looking at your daughter right now, and I have a 25-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old daughter. And it happens like that. And we tell ourselves we have all of this time to have that conversation. And I love, Nick, that you said we think we have the time, but the time is now to start cultivating some of these conversations so that you're not sitting there with your 15-year-old daughter and she's sitting at the table telling you she's pregnant and you've never had a conversation before.
Mm, yeah.
Exactly. God forbid. Yes, exactly.
I love you're using the word proactive, and I'm all for everywhere in life that matters being proactive versus reactive. I'm finding myself going, okay, how much proactivity, and maybe it's again, this is just a product of where my brain goes, but I'm like, how much of this proactivity is proactive in having a great relationship, and then which is all the time foundation. I put some, my oldest, again, teenager, and I put something out the other day because I believe this to be true. Well, we're not having teenage struggles. Like, we just have had this great foundation, and these teen years have been amazing so far, like so good, because all the years have been good because we have a solid relationship. So there's the proactivity in the relationship side. Nothing's perfect. But then there's also the proactivity in terms of the information. And that's such an interesting thing, right? Because there is so much nuance depending on who that is and like where are they potentially being exposed more than my other kids are, or whatever. And so proactivity on the information side, but not wanting to go too far ahead, and then not wanting to be caught off guard and having to be reactive. Like, that's such an interesting balance, man.
Well, and I'll say what you just said right there, that's the thing you really want to be careful of is and I'm not saying you're doing this,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the don't go too far ahead. Let me just assure you, if you
yeah,
are a loving, leaning in, and engaged parent, it is highly unlikely that whatever you choose to do will be too far ahead. So,
yeah,
like, you can just
yeah.
relieve yourself of that fear because you're a competent adult who loves your children more than anybody else in the world and wants the best for them. So, like, really, it is okay. And I mean, I'm trying to think of what possible scenario like, I can't think of one unless you're just daft and you have no competence whatsoever, which I guess is possible. But
Sure.
like you can't go too far unless you're not wise. Let's put it that way. If you
Yep.
are acting
Good
and
point.
operating with wisdom, you will never have to be afraid of going too far.
Yep. That's a really good way to put it. Um, it's a really good way to put it. I think if we feel like we are maybe going to go too far, I think sometimes we are disrespecting our own love and common sense for ourselves. Like, we're disrespecting our ability to make that choice. And I think a lot of times we are also disrespecting their ability to handle
Hmm.
a solid conversation on that too.
Hmm.
That's really good. Melinda.
Hey,
Hey, we got you.
Hello.
so I'm so excited about this part of the parenting. I've been like just dreaming of my conversations about puberty and like how to reach all of the like knowledge and things that I've learned. And just kind of like what Matt was talking about, like I fear sometimes like I'm going too far, like, and she's 4 now. And I've like talked to her about things and she's seen things, but it's just like, are there actually like hard stops of like when they stop seeing you dressing, or like hard stops? Like actually, you know.
Amazing question. Yes, and this is where we take the parents use wisdom and agency and know the maturity of your children. And so we don't take a prescriptive approach, but your question is getting to the point of a beautiful point, which is I just did this with my wife the other day. And with my 4-year-old, again, this is where this is normalized in the home. This is where this is chill in the home. I said, honey, our son is now 4. He's going to be 5 soon. We have reached the line in our family where you will no longer be getting dressed. When you do get dressed, please shut the door. And then we're going to start telling the narrative that mommy needs some privacy. Why? Because I remember that not being the case in my childhood, and that putting inappropriate seeds, not like towards my mother, it was towards another family member. But long story short, yes, your question is getting to a perfect example of there is a reality where there is an inappropriate line and you don't want to cross it. Now, I was just talking to a mom the other day who was terrified that she went too far, single mom with her son, in that reality. And I said, unless you've sensed or found some evidence to the effect that your son is now lusting after you, which she hadn't, she was just concerned. I said, now is a perfect time to begin. No longer getting undressed in front of your son. And so I wish I could say, here's the age and the gender and when to begin doing it. I have a friend who has all girls and they're young, 6 and under, and he's just made it a rule that he will never and this is a beautiful rule. He'll never take a shower without a bathing suit on when he's with them in the shower. Beautiful rule. Great example. But we're not taking this, here's this prescription for this experience and this situation. Like, we really do believe the parents can figure it out. And I don't think he'd be harming or abusing his children if he went till age 5 or 6 and then started putting on swim trunks with his girls. Like, nothing bad would have happened if he's helping give them baths at night and that's just how it's happening. But yes, I would say, in my personal opinion, there is a time when you want to begin sharing the ideas of modesty. Like right now, my children are all in the same room. I want my children to have an amazing childhood. This is me speaking personally. And the reason I'm saying this is because every family is different. But when my daughter is getting closer to puberty, there's going to be a time, and way before then, we're going to be discussing privacy and modesty and what, where you get undressed and where you don't. And this is kind of the point of, it's not just a talk, it's just normalized regular conversations in our home as we age, as we grow, and as we mature. And every family dynamic is different. Some people are growing up on a farm and their 8-year-olds are helping cows give birth, and they understand a whole lot more about the realities of sex and where babies come from. So like, it is so nuanced. But your question, it's almost like you already had the answer. And I think a lot of parents are there as well, where it's like, yeah, as you exercise wisdom, you'll begin to be like, okay, here's the line. Let's draw it. Let's explain it. Let's play it out in our home. Does that kind of answer your question, Melinda?
Yeah, it does. I've been trying to build it and think about it and like, when is it? And it doesn't feel like it's now. But I was like, okay, well then when? Because I don't have, well, maybe I do. Maybe I can think about my childhood and like when I was still exposed to my mom and it's like, she could have closed the door, right? It was a little uncomfortable, but I can't remember what age that was. So it's just like, okay, so now just try and figure it out and not go too far. But
And I love your question. I'll actually give you a real world story. I was teaching at a school. I often go into schools and teach. And one of the moms came up to me and she, this is why it's so specific, but also as long as you're leaning in, it's going to be okay. And they were going on the mission field with their parents. And it was, I don't remember the exact context, but it was something to the effect of their mom and dad had to tell them earlier than they were comfortable with because they were going into a culture that was very sexually promiscuous and exposed, and so they had to have the mom and dad have sex, where babies come from reality. And she was telling me this story about how she felt like she was too young when her parents had that conversation with her. But then I looked at her and I said, did it cause any harm? Did it cause you to lust in any way? And we kind of just played it out right there. And she was like, oh no, it made me a little bit uncomfortable, but like it wasn't a big deal. And so I was like, so in the end, everything was okay. What they did wasn't wrong. And they had your best. So like, that's a perfect example of there's almost not a wrong answer as long as you're leaning in as a parent.
Yeah. As long as you've done it the right way. Yeah, it's a really good point. So interesting to think through. And it's, again, I think a lot of this, Melinda, is a product of, this is a conversation we don't really do a good job leaning into and thinking through. We don't really think through this as much as we should, which is bananas. That's a good way to walk through it. Yeah, it's a good question, Melinda. Yeah, that's good. I got ditto on the farm. Farms will
Yeah.
So farms will teach you so much if you don't know already. I feel like I still learn on the farm. I'm going to bring Britt in, and I have another exposure question too, but I want to get Britt in here. What's up, my friend?
Hey, Melinda, thanks for your question. And Nick, thanks for your response, because it made me think about a conversation that maybe we've not dove in, that we've not dived into, dove something into enough. We've been in Europe for the past 10 months, and the beaches in Europe look way different than they do in America. And we've had some conversation, but now if I really think about it, it's kind of like really fast and maybe not giving as much time there as maybe we should. So how would you approach when you're seeing, and it's not just women, it's men too.
This is the beauty. I love your question, and this is the point of as much of an easy button as I could give to parents, we did, and then everything else is so nuanced. And so, if you don't mind me asking, how old are your kids, boys, girls?
Yeah, my girls are here with us. They're 9 and 14.
Okay, so 9 and 14. So I would say you have the blessing of having a little bit of a leg up, because if it was a 14-year-old boy and a 9-year-old boy, I'd be giving very different advice, only because of the visual nature of men, not because girls can't struggle in this way. But I'd probably say everything's pretty chill still, but you would probably still want to have these conversations. As far as nude beaches go, I was having this conversation about nude art the other day, and we're going to do a podcast about it in the ministry. Welcome to my world and things we do on the daily. But what I would say is, you as a parent have to process the edification and the benefits of whatever the situation is, and the potential harm and the potential good. So like, again, as myself speaking personally, not on the behalf of the ministry, if I had boys, guess what? There will be no beaches in our future in Europe, because that's just not, I'm not going to do that to my boys. I know my story. I know my reality. It would probably be different with my girls. But then it's like, I want to have a conversation of, are nude beaches edifying in any way? And should we even be engaged? I'm not making prescriptions here. I'm not telling you how to live your life. But what I'm saying is that...
Wait, just for the record, I'm not actively going to nude beaches.
Yes,
it's
no,
just
I
that
understand.
people just feel free to,
Yes.
It's okay.
randomly.
All the messages, I'm getting a bunch of private DMs, and they're like, does Brittany go often? I'm like, yes, totally. Sometimes alone. I don't, but that's fine. It's all good.
Here, let me say it better. A narrative I've already given to my children at a very young age, and I love this narrative. And this could be a narrative you give to your girls. It's So my last name's Liberto, and it's hilarious because one of those like Matt high five moments with your wife. My boys will recite this now, and they'll say, "Well, we're Libertos, and we do things differently." And so, like at a very early age, I am introducing that the world and people in the world are going to act, look, and behave differently than we do, and here's why. And so, in this scenario, that would be an example of people are this way, but we aren't, and here's why. And that conversation begins and continues for years.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, we talk about that quite a bit, the family contracts and the family, like, look, this is just who we are anyways. And we talk about those family meetings and we talk about, it's so interesting that this oftentimes is just not a part of it. It's like, hey, this is who we are. Shh, don't talk about this part, right? Oh man, that we can include that in this too. Yes, Miss Brittany goes to a lot of these nude beaches. It does. Girls do, right?
But your question is so perfect because what it's further addressing is the reality that there's no one size fits all and every story and narrative is nuanced. Like I don't even need to give examples. These stories have given plenty of examples. The point is, if you're leaning in and having conversations, the nuance almost doesn't matter. Like it could be a friend showed something inappropriate to your child. You've been there. You've prepared them for it. It's not if but when. And I think that's the thing that I really want. Whenever I leave a conference, I ask this question. This is like the universal holy grail question. Do you know beyond the shadow of a doubt that if your child was exposed to sexual advances or pornography or anything harmful or unwanted in any way, do you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they can come and tell you about it and ask you questions about it? If you can't answer that question confidently, you're not leaning in enough. Whatever it is. It could be oral sex is the new goodnight kiss with your teenagers. Like, whatever it is, do your kids know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they can come tell you about it, talk to you about it, and ask you about it? And if the answer is not yes, just keep leaning in.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Something you said earlier made me think of this. So one of the things with Sophia that we talked about, and then I remember talking about it with a couple of Tim, but we talked about it a little bit with Tim Ballard when Tim came on, or when the movie was out in the theaters. Tim came in and joined us too, and we talked about almost this concept of culturally almost underreacting to how prevalent pornography is, like not really understanding how prevalent it is, not understanding how early the people, kids are getting exposed, not understanding the ties that it has to trafficking and all of these. Like, we almost understate it, like there is such a dark world over there, right? So there's that part. And so it always makes me think of extremes again, kind of how my mind works. Do we also over exaggerate sometimes on something that is just a norm? And I'm going to tell you where this has come from, but like a normal curiosity. So we have some campus owners that are here, people who have campuses or are launching campuses. I can tell you from having the experience of launched multiple campuses and working at multiple schools, you've got the every once in a while situation of 5-year-olds at recess, and they go around the corner and one's like, hey, show me this, I'll show you that, and it's like, boom. And then you've got the parents that sometimes are like, okay, yep, I'll talk to them, like, here we go. And then you have some parents who are like, oh my gosh, your child said this to my child, and like, we're going to talk lawsuit now. Your 4-year-old said this to my 5-year-old, and we're going to sue. Like, that happens too. Do we have is there a kind of an overreaction that you guys have seen? Or, I mean, I know it's not directly in line with the work, but do you see that kind of stuff, or do you hear those kind of stories? How do we get that balance right?
Yeah, I would say I have not seen an overreaction, but what I have seen is appropriate and beautiful. And it is that when parents lean in
Mm,
and go proactive, they are we are not advocating for like lean in to the point where you're suing everyone. We are
totally.
advocating for leaning in and being a protector for your child. So like I would say
Mm,
the parent that's like nonchalant and laissez-faire about it, oh, they're boys, that's what they do. Like that is promoting a negative environment of abuse. Like we don't want anything to do with any of that.
yeah.
But like what we want is a parent who is created this safe environment where
Mhm,
when God, it's, I mean, it's sad, but when, not if, when this
mm,
happens, your child knows that they can come and talk to you
mm,
and they know that you are their number one advocate that's going to go to bat for them on this no matter what. Now that doesn't mean you're coming in with lawsuits, but I mean I'll give you an example from my story to kind of showcase how this could and would go. So our parenting style is very engaged and very leaning in on this issue, and my children know that anything uncomfortable happens, they come and tell us, and I'm going and talking to the owner of the daycare the next morning. And like this has happened countless times because there are all kinds of different socioeconomic children engaged in the daycare situation. And, you know, one kid's pulling his pants down one day, they're playing spank each other on the butt the other day. Like every age, everything, it's always different. But what my kids know, and by the way, what the owner of the school knows, is that I'm coming in and there needs to be answers. And
mm,
I'm going to know what's like. And so I guess the best way to put it is you are your child's protector in this space. But if
mm,
you don't know about it, you can't protect them, and
sure.
you can't lean in that way. And so you're preparing them for it's not if but when, and then you're going to bat for them because you're never going to want them to be in a compromising situation. So one of the stories, this kind of gives an example, but for younger children in the course, a horror story, there was a older cousin babysitting a younger girl, and when mom and dad came home from the date or whatever it was, she would say, hey, I don't like it when John pokes me with his stick. And they thought they were just playing with sticks in the backyard. Well, years go by, and because they didn't give their daughter the word penis,
Mm,
as a nonchalant, chill word as penis, she couldn't say that. She just said stick because she thought that's what it was. And so you're giving your kids a defense by
mhm,
having these conversations. You're not harming them. You're giving them defensive tools. You kind of brought up trafficking. Part of this leaning in is your child will know if anything makes them feel uncomfortable, come tell mom and dad. Your child will know this is off limits. This is not okay. Like my children know, we're not, there's no boyfriends and girlfriends. And like, we don't, Libertos are different. We don't do that. So like, I wish there was a simple answer, but the answer is if you're leaning in and you're having age appropriate conversations for decades, then you're doing everything in your power and equipping and protecting your children. And I think that is the only answer
that
because you
is the
can't
simple answer.
control the world
That's right.
around your kids.
Bingo. That is the simple answer. Just like we guys, everybody that's here, we talk about the fact that, look, it doesn't matter what you choose to do for education, how you choose to partner or choose to not, you are the primary educator for your young people, period. End of story. You always will be, you always have been. This is just part of that education. It's the same thing. You're the primary educator, but you're leaning into that relationship that is there that makes all that. That is the simple answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really is that. And I love that. I love that you take that approach. Can you outline just for people here what the kind of what we're doing here together as far as what that partnership looks like here and what we're doing? Because then what I want to do is I want to make sure everybody knows where to find you because we do want to put this out as a podcast. and I want to know how we best support you, and not just you as the organization, but you as Nick, and you and your family. So those are going
I
to be the final kind of
Yeah,
questions.
I so appreciate that. So I'm honored and excited. I do this for a living, 50 plus hours a week, and it is my honor and pleasure to do so. We are partnering with you guys with Apogee. Any Apogee family is getting 25% off with this partnership. We created you a custom page. You guys have, special rolled out the red carpet for you treatment. So it's an incredibly affordable course. It's only with your discount, it's $75 a year. So we made it as cheap as possible as our nonprofit could afford to roll the software out at scale with you guys and really all over the world. And so you can find us through your custom link that you'll provide in the show notes, in the links and descriptions, and in wherever you list your curriculum details about things of that nature. And the coupon code is listed on your homepage, on all your custom links and everything like that. So really, I would just say lean into Apogee more and look there for the instructions for how to roll this out in your campus with your families, however it fits. I've already had one of your campus startup guys reach out, and he's excited and rolling it out. And so I'm available. You can email me. I do this for a living. And really, I would just say that back to that, you don't have time, lean in, this is not the Christian or Judeo-Christian YouTube. We're not trying to have people in this forever. You can get through this in 2 weeks if you really wanted to. It's only 14 videos. So instead of watching Netflix for 14 nights, just put this on and you'll be out the other side and good to go. But families are busy, and we see most families take about 12 to 18 months to get through the 14 videos, but that's just what the data says. Did that kind of answer the first question?
Oh, it was great, man. It was great. And guys, so for those of you that are launching campuses as well, this is something we want to extend to our parents too, right? So we don't need to become the campuses that are teaching their kids no, we want to be the campuses that are helping empower them to be the primary educator and the primary resource for their kids. That's our role. What an amazing resource to be able to do that and go, hey, look, here's an organization that we partner with and trust and know that you've got good stuff coming your way that can empower them to do the right thing. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah, we see a lot of schools that are taking advantage of this as a sex ed solution in kind of like the Judeo-Christian ethic reality, where, I personally don't really think schools should be in the business of sex educating children. It should be the parents. And that's this approach. This is give mom and dad the tools and then let mom and dad do it, because I think that's the way it should be.
1,000%. Could not agree more. Could not agree more. And this is an amazing resource for that, you guys. So that's what we're doing here. As far as anybody going out that's listening, where would you have everybody go to find what's going on? And then again, most important to us, I know we're going to keep conversations rolling, man, but I want to know how, and I want to publicly know how to support you best too.
Yes, if you are in Apogee circles, go to all the Apogee links provided and the links in the bio. If for some reason, wherever you are in the world and you're hearing this and you're not in those circles, thesextalk.com, you can find us there. If you are struggling, because we do all things sexual integrity. So, men struggling with pornography addiction, marriages with, all the things, provenministries.org, we are here to serve in that way. And I mean, the best way to support us is to help me advance the vision of seeing an entire generation of kids who have age-appropriate sex talks with their parents, so that they don't show up on my desk 15 years from now in a marriage on the rocks because they thought it was going to fix everything and the sex was going to be perfect and they were just going to be amazing and their porn problem was going to be solved. And like this is the answer to equip the next generation to not have the story I have, the story that so many people unfortunately have. And we can change an entire generation.
Love it, man. Love it. Appreciate it so much. Appreciate the time here. Appreciate the work that you are doing. Appreciate the mission that you are on. Appreciate the partnership of all of it. It is so important. I remember saying for years and years before even getting into what we do now, just remember saying like, why do we have So I love all the professional development stuff that we have going on for adults, and I love all these important topics. Gosh, why aren't we teaching kids this so that we don't have to fix them later on? Like what is the disconnect? And I mean, gosh, could there not be a more important part to start tackling early and do better job, have to equip the parents to do a better job so we don't have to fix all these things later. So my brother, thank you. I appreciate you. You guys that are here, Apogee men and women, hang tight. I want to rock the debrief with you. But Nick, I'm going to reach out here a little bit later to you, but so grateful for your time, brother. Truly.
Honored. Bless you guys. And we'll talk soon, Matt.
Awesome, man. I look forward to it. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks,
See ya.
Nick.